Hi, I'm Kelli Paddon. I am here with Teri Westerby. As you all know, I'm sure, there is a federal election coming up April 28th. And so we have our candidate for the BC NDP for Chilliwack-Hope here in the studio so that we can get to know him and ask some questions that I hope are on your mind as well. So welcome, Teri.
Thank you very much.
So to get started, for people who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, where do I start? I've lived here for over 10 years now, and I've really fallen in love with Chilliwack since being a part of this community. There's just something special about the people of Chilliwack-Hope and the way that we build community. When I moved here originally, it was because I wanted to farm and I wanted to learn about getting to know the land and getting to understand why things were kind of so messed up. Because I'm a trans person, as you know, and I transitioned when I came here. And so I like to say I found myself in the soil, and the land taught me that we get to decide who we are and what our future becomes. And when I had that realization, like, the reason why things are messed up is because we aren't taking control of our futures, and we aren't taking control of what we have in front of us and taking ownership of it and being strong leaders in our own lives. And at least for myself, what I learned is that I get to decide for myself who I am and what I do with my life. And so, unfortunately, I didn't have the investments and the capital to really build a farm that was sustainable. But I figured out that I could help people in so many different ways that actually played to my actual strengths. My strengths are in graphic design and marketing and computers and all things creative and fun and making things look pretty, as I like to say. But with those skills, I was able to help so many people build a stronger community that was far more connected. I helped develop the Chilliwack Pride Society, and I used my marketing skills to develop the first successful Pride event, and that grew over years to having 25,000 attendees. You've been there.
Yeah.
And seeing how those skills can really build a stronger community, it helped me become stronger and stronger in who I was as a person and what I had to offer. And so when I heard all the things that the kids in schools and what the teachers were facing in 2022 and leading up to it, part of the reason why we started Pride, actually, all the vitriol that the students and kids were facing for inclusive education, I knew I had to step up. I knew I had the opportunity to learn who I was and to build a stronger sense of identity and to build a connection in this community that said, I see you, Teri, and we stand with you, and we know that this is the future we want. And so I put my name on the line, and I ran for trustee, and Chilliwack responded. And
For the school board.
Sorry, yeah, for the Chilliwack School Board. Just so used to acronyms, right?
Of course.
And when that happened, I knew that this was the way we're going. This is the way the future's going. And that's a more connected, a stronger community that stood with trans people and stood with the rights of all Canadians, no matter what. And so that's just who I am. I think that's a snippet of who I am since I've moved here and who I've become as a person and as a leader in this community. And I just love it here.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I think it kind of leads naturally into my next question, which is, stepping up and putting your name forward for a federal seat in Parliament. To serve as an MP for Chilliwack-Hope. That's a big choice. That's a big decision, both to run and for the job afterwards. So can you tell me a little bit about how did that conversation go? How did that decision-making process go from, the work that you're doing in community to support community and on the school board to putting your name forward in a federal election?
Yeah, it came as a surprise to me that people saw me as a leader the way I saw myself as a leader, because I was so used to spending my life leading from the sidelines, leading the people in the shadows, away from harm. And when the time came and push came to shove and Donald Trump's rhetoric was getting louder and louder and Pierre Poilievre was saying only two genders, I knew we needed a trans leader, we needed a trans face in this community to say we stand with people's rights. We stand with a unified Canada that cares about each individual person. And so leading up to it, I've been involved in progressive politics here in Chilliwack for pretty much the whole 10 years that I've been here. And it's ebbed and flowed. My capacity has ebbed and flowed over time. But yeah, when I knew that the previous candidate, DJ Pohl, who really fought strong for NDP, who brought us so close to winning last time, she's fighting her own fights in labor and changing labor from the inside out. And I knew I had to stand with her to continue making change here in Chilliwack. And so when I got that call from the NDP, I said, as much as I love what I'm doing with the school, I knew that if I didn't say yes, we stand to risk everything we've built. And we need to keep carrying that forward, that dream and that vision of what a better Chilliwack could be. And I knew I was the one to carry it because I believe it in my core that we know what's better for Chilliwack and we know how to build it. We just have to be brave.
Okay. It's a lot of passion.
I'm full of passion.
Which is good. It's good. Because campaigning is not easy.
No.
So you are the candidate for the federal NDP party.
Yes, Canada NDP.
Yes. So I think I said BC NDP before.
That's okay.
No.
I think it's a habit.
It's a habit. So Canada NDP. So can you describe for me a little bit about what was it about the NDP party specifically that led you to that choice?
Well, not only having worked with the NDP, both provincially and federally, having been on DJ's campaign and yours, what I found is that the NDP are the only ones who actually mean what they say. When they say things like, we stand with all Canadians, no matter your identity. If you look at the Canada NDP candidates, I'm not the only trans one there. And if you look at the other candidates, less diversity, less seeing people for who they really are, that they're leaders, that every individual person, no matter who they are in this community, matters, and that they can lead. And the NDP's policies as well, they're the ones that actually believe in the same things I do. Like, you see my passion, I'm pouring it out to you right now, and that's what the NDP reflects. Their passion and my passion match, and their strength and my strength match. Like, you see what they've done over the last 10 years. They've held the Liberals' feet to the fire. They've made sure we've got dental care, pharmacare, Medicare, expanded EI. If we didn't have those things, I personally would have suffered. I had I was the one laid off during COVID. If I didn't have CERB, I would have lost all my savings. And that was because of the NDP. I'm currently wearing Invisalign, and I have access to a teeth adjustment because of the dental care. And I also have pharmacies. So if it wasn't for these reduced pharmacy prices, I would be paying more out of pocket. So I know personally that these NDP policies help our lives, right? I've seen it. My family sees it. My neighbors see it. And if it wasn't for these policies, we'd all struggle. And I just can't stand for that. So I knew the NDP were the right party to stand with me to uphold my passion and my values.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're really clear.
Yeah.
Okay. Clarity's good. So is there one policy, one direction, or one goal for yourself or the NDP that stands above the rest, that just cements this decision and what you're fighting for Chilliwack-Hope and our community?
Well, the number one thing I hear on the doorsteps is that they're worried about tariffs and the cost that it's going to inflict on especially the Chilliwack-Hope community, because we're going to be one of the hardest hit. We have tons of industries, we have tons of farmers, and all of the costs of businesses for small businesses and the cost of living for families is going to rise if we don't think logically about what we can do with these tariffs. So the NDP's plan is to take the retaliatory tariffs and invest them right back here in the communities that they're impacted in, so we don't lose jobs, so businesses can continue to thrive. So all of those investments stay here and local dollars stay in local pockets and in local communities, because we've seen it when local business owners succeed, they take that success and they put it right back here in the community. And so if we don't protect what's here, we will lose all that amazing connectivity that we've built. We have the amazing free store that people donate their extra groceries to if they need it, and people who have it in need, they go and get their groceries, right? And that kind of thing could be lost if we don't protect the success of our small businesses and our farmers and localize and strengthen those small food chains so that people who grow their food can bring it right back here to the community. When we worked on the downtown Chilliwack Community Farmers Market, we noticed that was one of the biggest gaps, that farmers who grew their food here couldn't bring it right back to the market so local people can have access to their local food. And that's something that I and the NDP and I would fight for, to make sure that all of our local businesses, all our local farms, and every industry that's impacted is strengthened so that we don't lose jobs and we don't lose extremely important Canadian assets to giant corporations that are just going to take all those dollars right out of our pockets.
Okay, so I'm hearing acting locally, and I'm hearing themes of like just patriotic.
Sure.
And both of those and the impact that they would have here for our farmers, our business owners.
Yeah, I'm a person, like a human-centered leader, where it's not about partisanship for me. It's about what is going to impact the people that live here, that make this community great and strong. And that means protecting our jobs, protecting our industries, protecting our communities, and protecting what we built to make this community great.
Okay. So we've touched on a few different things, a lot of different things. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that, you want people to know either about you or the message, what you stand for, or the NDP party itself?
Well, Kelly, we are really standing at the edge of change. We see what's happening down south in America, and we know it could be coming up here. And if we don't stand strong now for our democracy and for our rights, we are standing on a razor's edge of losing our rights of protection against discrimination. It's the notwithstanding clause has been something that's been already floated of being used against the people. So if we lose our rights, that means you can be discriminated against for housing, for jobs, for loans, and that's not something in Canada that I don't think anyone wants to see. So we need to stand strong now for our democracy and for our rights. And that's just because if we don't, we know what we're going to lose, right? And I don't mean to sound all scary and oogie boogie, but as a person who grew up here...
Oogie boogie?
Oogie boogie.
That's awesome.
Oogie boogie. But I grew up here, right? I grew up here in the 90s and 2000s, and I watched as gay marriage became legal, as gender and sexuality became added to the Charter of Protections. And we've recently added First Nations identity as a protected class. And if we want to continue to see more unity and more collectivity in Canada, then we need to stand strong now and be brave and vote for the future we want. And so that's why I'm doing this, really.
I see you talk a lot about reconciliation and the importance of it locally, but more broadly as well. Did you want to share anything about your thoughts around reconciliation and the action and work that's going on?
Yeah, I mean, Canada has a long history of not treating the First Nations people very well. And we need to be brave enough to listen and to lean into understanding that truth and to stand along with the people when they ask to be listened to and to be heard. And when they have, we don't have any treaty rights here, but they're working on it. And when that comes to be, we need a strong leader who will say, I stand with the First Nations people and I stand with their treaty rights. And this is unceded territory. And I fully uphold that truth. And that we need to continue to work together to create more cohesiveness so that they have the supports that they need to lead their communities autonomously. And we can work together as neighbors. There's no reason why we're not doing that now. We just have to have political will, and I do.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Teri, for everything, answering all the questions. Thank you for stepping up, putting your name forward, your hand up. I know campaigning's not easy, so good luck in the remainder of the campaign.
Thank you.
For all the viewers, please keep in mind how critical it is that you vote. So April 28th is election day, and you do not want to be at home seeing the results come in that night, wondering what would have happened if you had voted. So make sure you get out and vote. As I've said before, bring some friends, make a plan, make sure it is an intentional part of your day. And thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you again soon.